Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us for Access City Council. I'm your host, City of Las Vegas Communications Director David Riggleman. Coming up on this show, SafeNest teams up with the Metropolitan Police Department and city leaders to put an end to domestic violence in our area. And some local high school students receive a generous donation from Allegiant Airlines for their aviation program. Here to discuss these topics and much more is the councilman who represents Ward 2. It's Mr. Steve Seroka. Welcome back.
Thanks, David. It's always good to be here and share
just
a bit of what we do in Ward 2.
A lot going on. We have a lot to talk about today.
Yes, we do.
Because you've been busy. That's always a good thing. You know Ward 2 very well. It's your stomping ground, actually mine too. I live out in Ward 2. But if you don't know where Ward 2 is located, we're going to show you on the map. It's basically the area west of the Rainbow Curve. If you live in that area, work in that area, then you are in the city limits of the city of Las Vegas, and you're represented by Steve Seroka if you live out there. A lot of growth west of the 215
a lot of
now.
growth.
Yeah, it's like the old days. Yeah.
Right, it's booming out that way. Howard Hughes is really doing a great job, and they have a great plan. They always have high standards, and it's exciting to work closely with them.
Yeah. You're involved in a lot of different projects in the community, you and your other council members. Yeah. One of the ones I know that's been near and dear to you and to Mayor Pro Tem Lois Tarkanian is an issue with SafeNest. We have a high incidence of domestic violence in Las Vegas, and sadly, we have also a very high propensity that many of those domestic violence issues end in death. So, needless to say, as a community, we need to change that. And so you posted this recently on Facebook. I thought it was great. It was my pleasure to attend this event with my fellow council member, Mayor Pro Tem Lois Tarkanian, to help recognize the great work SafeNest has been able to accomplish to combat domestic violence in the Valley through their partnership with the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. Councilman, it's a great program. There's you with Mayor Pro Tem at this event. The idea here is to really help reduce these statistics that we see in the Valley.
Well, as we've shared before, crime is the _1 issue in Ward 2, and public safety is one of my primary areas of emphasis. In SafeNest and Northwest Area Command, Captain Sasha Larkin know that myself and Mayor Pro Tem Tarkanian are very engaged in this area, so they reached out to us to help partner in this area. And between SafeNest and our Northwest Area Command leadership, they put a pilot program together in the Northwest where they were able to reduce domestic violence-related homicides from 6 last year, and a trend of 6 or more in the past each year, to 0 this year. What an amazing program they put in place.
Councilman, how'd they do it? What was the secret to going from 6 in 1 year, which is an incredibly high number, to 0?
Well, as Captain Larkin said in her presentation, when there's a domestic violence incident, the Metro Police is there, but their strength is not in comforting and counseling people. That's not their training. So by partnering with SafeNest, whose people are trained to be engaging and very personable in challenging times, we bring in a SafeNest person into the discussion, and it really helps bring down and create opportunities for those domestic violence issues to be talked out instead of resolved through violence. And as we've talked previously, when there's a domestic violence call to the police, somebody has to be taken away and put in prison or held for a period of time. And the problem with that is normally the breadwinner of the home, or often the case is the breadwinner of the home, and the spouse or partner left at home is saying, wait, how do I continue my life?
How do I support myself?
How do I support myself? So that they often fall into a cycle of violence because they won't press charges, they'll welcome the person back into their home.
And then it repeats.
And then it repeats, and it gets more intense till it, unfortunately, it can end in
someone dying,
in a homicide, in a death. So by inserting counseling and inserting a people person, a well-trained person into that cycle early on from the very first call, they were able to prevent that cycle from leading to homicides this past year. Yeah. The beauty of the program, David, is it's scalable. So now we're using it in the rest of the city of Las Vegas. So not just Northwest Area Command, but the other area commands as well. And it's a great partnership. And SafeNest is really excited to have more resources available to them. And you saw the NFL Raiders alumni provided a check for $20,000 to SafeNest to continue this program.
Yeah, Liz Ortenberger is the executive director of SafeNest. She's really made some great inroads. He's establishing these partnerships, really zeroing in on what's the heart of the issue. I remember one of the things that she had told us previously on this show is that the cycle of violence, if it happens when you're a child, you're going to repeat that cycle as an adult. It's just the way things play out. So breaking that cycle of domestic violence in the home is part of what they focus on as well.
Right, and Safe Nest is comprised of people, when I spoke to them, that had lived through, as part of that cycle of violence from childhood to adulthood, and they had made a conscious decision to break that cycle with themselves, and now they're there to help other people do the same. We
should tell everybody too, Councilman, Safe Nest is always looking for volunteers
who
can help counsel. So if you're interested in that, get in touch with the organization, and I'm sure they'd love to talk with you. So.
Right, and that's a crime that we don't always see out in the street, but we can really help.
Yeah, and it has a big impact on the community, needless to say. Councilman, love this, switching from domestic violence to helping kids achieve their dreams. You, Allegiant Airlines, came up with a great program. For people that don't know, Rancho High School has an aviation program. They're a magnet school, and they have an aviation program to prepare students to go into the aviation field, whether to be a pilot or a ground crew, whatever it might be. And Allegiant, headquartered in your ward, made a big contribution to help that program flourish even more.
Absolutely. Allegiant headquarters is in Ward 2, about 1.5 miles from my house, and I really am proud to have them in Ward 2. And further, Rancho High School, because they are an aviation school, I've been engaged with them since I was still active duty at Nellis Air Force Base. And when I heard that Allegiant had $400,000 worth of parts they wanted to donate to Rancho High School for their maintenance training program, I wanted to find a way that we could help. They needed transportation with those parts, and our great city of Las Vegas partnered with Allegiant and found a way to get those parts to the students at Rancho High School. And that's always important from somebody like me who's a pilot. You want to have a good relationship with your maintenance team.
Yeah, needless to say.
You want them to be highly skilled and
very important.
capable. Yeah. They're very important. And in the airplane I flew, we couldn't say, jump on the airplane and fly with us. We had to take their word for it, and we did, and they're great. But they start out our maintenance people start out in training programs like at the Magnet School at Rancho.
And Councilman, we should tell everybody out there, if they don't already know, you're a retired Air Force, retired as a full colonel. So, yeah, you've done a little flying in your day.
Yeah, it was a single-seat airplane. Yeah. Nobody was willing to hang on the wing while we took off.
You flew the F-15, so you understand what these kids, what their dreams are, and what's important to make it in the aviation industry too.
And what's really wonderful about, even more wonderful about what Allegiant did is they recognized that much of the training that our students get on for maintenance of aircraft is done on parts made for training, which aren't real parts. Further, if they are real parts, they're from very old airplanes, likely not in the fleet anymore, so they'll never see those out on the job. So for Allegiant to provide real parts from real airplanes that are in use today, while those students get to take apart the landing gear and get exposed to all that hydraulic fluid, how do you handle those situations with real stuff? And they were very excited.
Well, that's great.
That's
great.
Excited.
Well, thank you, Allegiant, and good luck to the students there at Rancho. You're going to be flying before we know it, too.
There you go.
So, Councilman, I love this. You recently recognized one of your citizens in Ward 2 as our Citizen of the Month for City of Las Vegas, Mr. Craig Billings. You posted this on Facebook. You said, "Today I was grateful to be able to recognize Craig Billings as the Citizen of the Month for the City of Las Vegas for February." Craig was an amazing guy because you had a crime problem out in Ward 2.
We do.
6 break-ins
in one night.
In one night.
And Craig said, enough is enough. And he gave me a call, just as you're saying. So he as one citizen, made a difference by calling me, and he says, let's tackle this problem together. And I have to give the City of Las Vegas and Metro a huge shout out, because this was a cross-departmental solution that we put together with Metro, and we ended up catching that suspect in a relatively short time. In addition, we were able to mitigate the circumstances and the environment that enabled that person to commit all those burglaries in one night and repeat them over time.
Councilman, tell everybody real quickly how the suspect was getting from house to house to house so quickly. What was the situation, and why Craig jumped in and involved so many people to help solve the problem? It was more complicated than just somebody going from down the street and hitting each house.
Right. Yeah. One of the problems that much of Las Vegas has, well, it's a good thing and a bad thing, are the tunnels that we use for our drainage for flood mitigation. So this criminal was using the tunnels to get around.
Yeah. And it was his highway.
It was his highway, and he was able to access the community, also crossing golf courses and other places where there wasn't significant weren't significant barriers in place. So working with the city, we were able to put fencing up as appropriately along open space. We were able to clear out the tunnels not only for security but for safety, because when there's a flash flood, unfortunately many of our homeless are caught in that and are either injured or become a fatality that we read about. So we were able to clean the tunnels out, put mitigating obstacles in the way so that the homeless, even though a human can get into the tunnels, you can't get through carrying any of your belongings. So they created a series of barriers, and they put grates where that was appropriate over our access to the tunnels. And we adjusted the lighting in our parks, and we adjusted the hours our parks were open, and we adjusted how often and at what times we opened our public facilities.
So we should say, Councilman, a lot of the houses that were broken into were near the Wallapai Canyon Trail.
Yes.
So he could go down through the trail, through the drainage tunnels, and then just pop up, rob a house, go back down, go over, pop up somewhere else, break into another house, and so on. So it was very, very difficult to try to catch somebody who's doing that unless you have all of these different groups within the city, within the police department, within the community working together to try to solve the problem.
And that's where Craig is really unique and special, in that he was able to identify these weaknesses when he came forward. He didn't come forward saying, I have a problem, fix it. He said, we have a problem, and I have a series of solutions we can implement if we're willing to work together. And we did. And I'll give him credit. He is relentless, and he's a great asset to the Win, where he is a senior executive.
And chief financial officer. He's a smart guy.
He's a brilliant man, and he's got a lot of tenacity, energy, and a great member of the community. Yeah. And Win, he's part of. Craig is proud to be part of the 12,000 employees and the thousands of volunteer hours they contribute to the community. And I'm sure those hours that he gave us will be volunteer hours as well that they'll count.
Well, Craig, great job. And Councilman, good for you for jumping on it, working with him and getting the problem solved. Nothing worse than having your house broken into,
And David, what's really nice about this is, again, it's scalable. So what we did in Ward 2 with the cross-departmental solutions, we are now able to take to other parts of the town where there's tunnels and drainage and access to homes from trails just in the same manner.
Yeah, perfect.
So we have a progressive solution going into place around our community.
If it worked in Ward 2, it'll work elsewhere. That's right. Another great success story, Councilman, Nevada Child Seekers. You very involved with that group, helping get the word out on missing children. Recently they had, I forget the name. It's
Big Search.
Their Big Search. The Big Search, where they bring extra resource in to try to find missing children. There were about 30.
Right.
And they were able, in this short window of time, to find half of those kids.
Right. Amazing. Margarita Edwards, executive director for Nevada Child Seekers, runs a great program, and she put outreach out across the country. We had 240 volunteers from across the country and internationally coming to Las Vegas to help our community. And as you said, half the people were found, or nearly half of them were found in a short time. So they added 6 more names to the list, and we found some of those as well.
That is great.
Totaling half of what we were looking for in one weekend. Now, Nevada Child Seekers is in place and operating continuously, but this is especially a big and noteworthy because when they do one of these big events, when we have such success, it's worth noting. And members of our community, David, help as well. Even though there's lots of volunteers that come and work the phones, there's people out in the community that are responding to our concerns.
Yeah. I think if anyone has ever watched a city council meeting, at the end, you will always list kids who are missing. Does anyone know where this child is? Have a picture, description, last seen, that type of thing. But you've been very consistent doing that on our city council, at the end of our city council meetings. So you've got skin in the game, obviously, for the child seekers as well. And boy, when you hear a success like that, because generally it's very difficult. Kids, whether they've run away or whether something else has happened, very difficult to locate them. So to find that many in a short period of time, that's an incredible story.
And it says a lot about our community. And we do have some other problems that we were reading about in the paper recently about our human trafficking challenge. But this is just a tip of the iceberg for that problem. We're so proud to be part of solving, and our family, when our families get separated, bringing them back together.
Exactly. Again, folks, if you're interested in being part of one of these big push, the big search. I keep wanting to call it full court press.
It's a big push for a big search.
Yeah, big search, the big search. If you're interested in being part of all of that, then contact the organization. They would love, I'm sure, to have you
Absolutely.
volunteer to be part of all that. They could use the hands, no question. You have a Coffee with the Councilman coming up at the Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf from 8 to 9:30 on Thursday, March 28th. There, it's out on West Charleston.
It's on Park Run in a high traffic area for our community, so just pull on in, say hi, have a cup of coffee. You know, that's one of the pillars of our office. My time in office is being the voice of the people, and this is a great way for people to let our office know what their concerns are, so that we as an office can better represent the community.
I like these events because they're very informal.
Absolutely.
You know, when you're talking about having to come to City Hall to meet with the councilman, or maybe at one of your satellite offices, it's still it's more of a formal thing. But to just sit down over a cup of coffee to talk about what's going on, it's a great thing. You get that two-way dialogue and also establish some relationships. I think your constituents feel like they know you better, and you're more in tune with what's going on within their communities.
You really said that well, David. In fact, people sit down and they say, well, I've heard this. Is this true? We heard you. Wait, let's clarify all of that. Let's take that and go forward. Whether it's short-term rentals, marijuana dispensaries.
Crime,
absolutely. Our public safety issues and our development concerns. You know, people are really more comfortable in having a dialogue in an informal setting like that.
I agree. I agree. It's a great opportunity just to meet the councilman one-on-one. Also, coming up April 5th, we want to tell everybody, Military Employment Summit. This is going to be out at the National City Arena where the Golden Knights practice. National City Arena from 8 to noon. This is a Friday, April 5th. Military folks looking for work and companies looking to hire some great skilled workers. This is the place to be that day.
Yes, David, we're really elevating the conversation about veterans. Unfortunately, many people, when they think about veterans, they think of a homeless person or a person who's incapable of
kind of down
contributing.
on their luck.
Yes, they're challenged veterans is what I call them. But the veteran community is not homogenous. We do have our challenged veterans, and we want to get them back on their feet. But our veteran community is amazing. Some of them are ready to be CEOs, executive directors right now. Some are ready to be entry level, yes, and some are ready for mid-level, executive level employment. So we're partnering with the Golden Knights, we're partnering with Cox Communications, and we're partnering with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Hiring Our Heroes program.
Wow, that's awesome.
Based out of Washington, D.C. And we were going to have the event on the ice at the Golden Knights training facility, but we understand that they need a little practice that day. So the Knights will be practicing, from what I understand, during the time we're having our event. So you get a bonus. Not only do you get to hear from our veteran employers and veterans themselves, get to see our Vegas-born team practice out on the ice as well.
So you're waiting for your interview maybe. You can watch a little bit of the practice out there. Nice.
So we encourage, while they have the chance, if you're an employer interested in veterans of all stripes, please contact our office. And if you're a veteran looking for employment, please come on out. And if you're a veteran advocate or provide veteran services, we welcome you to this event.
Awesome. Speaking of events, we want to get this word out too. On March 9th, you have another shredding event taking place. It's going to be at Veterans Memorial Community Center. That's on Pavilion Center Drive there, 101 North Pavilion Center Drive. If you have old documents, also old medication that you want to get rid of safely, this is the place to be. Again, Saturday, March 9th from 10 to noon out at Veterans Memorial.
Mellencroft is still our sponsor, and they provide the prescription drug disposal bags that we can put the prescription drugs in, put a little water in, and you can dispose of it safely.
Toss it yourself, it's good stuff.
Landfill, yes.
Instead of throwing it down the toilet and it ends up in Lake Mead then.
Right, and we don't want to have to drink that kind of water.
Exactly right.
Take care of our community this way.
Councilman, we need to take a short break, but when we come back, we'll introduce you to one of the newest members of Councilman Seroka's staff. That's next, so please stay with us.
You're doing great. We're gonna try this again, okay?
Okay.
Wheels, pedals, handlebar, brakes. Sit up straight, keep your weight in the center, keep your eyes on the road, hands on the grips, butt in the seat. If we feel ourselves falling, what do?
Just keep pedaling.
Good girl. Now remember, it's all about balance and steering. Steer with your hands, steer with your body. Steer into the corners and you stay out of trouble. And the bell's your buddy, so go ahead and ding that. All right, you ready? Here we go. Pedal, honey, pedal. There you go, you're a bike rider.
Most parenting is hard to do in just 2 minutes. But 2 minutes twice a day making sure they brush is easier, and it could help save them from a lifetime of tooth pain.
They say that when you're facing extreme danger, your life flashes before you. If you think that's sad, consider facing it before you even have enough life to flash before your eyes. Deaths and injuries can be prevented by using the right car seat. Visit safercar.gov/the-right-seat to know what is appropriate for each age and size.
Drop that baby.
Welcome back, everyone. Councilman Seroka has some great staff members in his office who help keep Ward 2 running smoothly. With us today is one of the newest team members, Jordan Sandecki. Jordan, thanks so much for being on the show. I know Councilman is thrilled with the work that you've been doing. We always like to bring, Councilman, we love to do this. We love to bring the staff members on because often when people contact the office, this is who they're going to get to talk to before they get to talk to you, right?
Right, and Jordan's a great first person, face of the office, face of the community for Ward 2. And if she doesn't talk to you on the phone, when you come to the office, she'll be the one that greets you out in the lobby and brings you in and sits and has a conversation. So now you get to see Jordan live and in person before you come to the office.
Jordan, you've been a city employee before going to work for
Yes.
Councilman Seroka. So you know the organization, you know kind of the ins and outs of who does what at City Hall. Your priorities, what does Councilman have you working on that are priorities for Ward 2 currently?
So one of the best things that I think Councilman Seroka and I did when we joined the team together was to sit down and really have a conversation about what was most important to not only the councilman but to the representative of Ward 2. You know, he is elected by the people, for the people, to be the voice of the people, which is a great motto that we have rolling around the office. But we really sat down to say, what are the main things that we need to be focusing on for our residents? And what we came up with were, you know, very simple things that are easily distilled. So obviously veterans are a huge part of what Councilman does. He himself is a veteran. I'm actually a veteran spouse. My husband served.
I didn't know that, Jordan. I didn't know that.
Thank you. I'm very proud to have that be part of my story as well as his. And then we came up with public safety. As we mentioned Craig Billings earlier in the segment, that is a huge one for the residents of Ward 2. People deserve to feel safe in their communities.
Absolutely.
It's a very simple thing.
And if we're not providing that as a government, then we're falling down, right?
That's our number one role of
right,
government. Yep.
Further, we went into community outreach and engagement. As you said, our door's open. We're happy to meet with residents. We're happy to have people come in, share their ideas, because if we're going to represent the people, we have to talk to them. So residents are more than welcome to come in, talk to us about issues, concerns that they have in their neighborhood, great ideas that they're having of how we can better serve or how the city can better work for them. And then finally, we ended up with planning and development because Ward 2 obviously is a very, it's a growing community. Howard Hughes has been an amazing partner. They have great ideas of how they'd like to finish up their master plan community to continue evolving with the residents that we have and the future needs of the community. And Ward 2 especially is interesting in the fact that it's been an established community for years. So a lot of the residents I have the pleasure of talking to tell me they've lived there for decades. And having that kind of story and that history means a large investment in their community. So we want to make sure that when we do plan and we do develop in those areas, we're doing so in a smart way that doesn't change the character of the neighborhoods, that also allows for future growth opportunities as well.
For sure.
So,
well, David, now you know why I stole her from the city.
Exactly.
I said, Jordan, you're full time with us.
Pretty good
now.
job. Yeah, we'll keep her. Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure. You know, I wanted to talk to you. It's interesting, Jordan, what you were talking about. I wanted to get some perspective. I think sometimes that people that have moved here from other areas will sometimes get the impression that if I call City Hall, they're not going to do anything. You know, they're just not going to be responsive. But that's not the way we do business here in the city of Las Vegas.
It is
and I know
not.
it's one of your priorities, and I know that's one of the things you want to focus on, Jordan. We want to be accessible. We want to hear what the issues are. We want to try to do what we can to fix them, right?
We're going to tackle, when you call, we're going to take that issue seriously. And Jordan will often have it done by the time she even tells me about it. And one of the things
that's good. That's really good.
It's wonderful. Hey, I have this call, got it solved. You don't have to worry about it. Just want you to know. So when you see them in the neighborhood, when they approach you, you know what they're talking about. Thank you, Jordan.
No, I'm happy to help.
But one of the things, David, that's really important, and I hope that people understand this, one of the criteria that I used for hiring my team, of course, I want people of good character. It doesn't mean none of us are perfect, but it means that we work very hard to be representative of the people we represent, that we have moral courage to stand up and do the right things for our community. Sometimes it's hard. And then probably most important in Jordan is it exemplifies this characteristic greatly. You need to be agreeable with people that are being disagreeable with you.
Yeah, for
Because
sure.
sometimes it's very emotional when it's your property or it's your family welfare. When they're calling, and Jordan does an exceptional job of working with people
she
that
does.
are a bit emotional at the time, but she walks right through it and finds a problem and a
Thank
solution.
you, Councilman.
You know, I think what else you do, Jordan, and I want to talk about this a little bit, is that oftentimes people will call City Hall looking for a solution where we don't really have jurisdiction over it. It might be a school district issue, it might be a police
Yeah.
issue, whatever it
No,
might
this
be.
happens a
But
lot.
you're also very good at plugging those folks in and bringing everyone together. This is who can help you, and making sure that rather than just referring them, but making sure that connection
No,
gets made.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I think especially it's a unique challenge being in elected office because you really have to be a jack of all trades. As you mentioned, I've been with the city for about 6 years, so I'm very familiar with the foundational level of what's available to us, but also where the red tape can sometimes be and where our citizens can get frustrated with the process. So very much it's a part of making sure that we're facilitating them being able to get in touch with the services that they need, with the problem solvers that they need. And as you mentioned, sometimes it's not within our jurisdiction, but making sure that our office maintains great relationships with the commissioners, with the state level, with the different organizations like the RTC, to make sure that we can connect our citizens with the services they really need and the problem solvers that they need.
RTC, Regional Transportation Commission. Jordan, we're running out of time, but you know what, Councilman? I'm going to give her the final word if you don't mind.
I'm happy to allow that to happen.
Jordan, is there anything else you want to add, you want to touch on, you make sure the viewers get to hear?
We're open. We have a very much of an open door policy. As I mentioned, we're happy to meet with anyone about concerns, great ideas. And as you mentioned, we're here for customer service. We're here to serve you. That's a huge part of why I decided to take this step that I did. So please feel free to reach out. So 702-229-2144, we're available.
And that's the perfect segue, because we're going to tell everybody out there also how to reach you guys if they have some questions. We always want to hear from you, so if there's something you'd like to share with Councilman Seroka or with Jordan Sandecki, you can find him on Facebook and Twitter. As you know, he's very active on social media. You can also contact the councilman by picking up the phone, 702-229-2144. You might even get to talk to Jordan. And you can also send them an email. They're very responsive to getting back to all these means, whether it's a phone message or whether it's an email. But their address is ward2@LasVegasNevada.gov. And I promise they will get back to you. Jordan, Councilman,
Absolutely.
the rest of the team, Joe, they're on it every day. So great job. We'll have you back in 6 weeks.
Sounds good.
And we'll be working with you
I'll be around.
every day in between.
Looking forward to it. Yeah, Jordan's there all day, every day.
Yep.
You are too. So thanks, you two. Good job. We want to thank you for joining us for this edition of Access City Council. Don't miss our next show beginning on March 7th with Ward 6 City Councilwoman Michelle Fiore. You can catch all of our KCLV shows now on Apple TV, Roku, Hulu, and Amazon Fire. And don't forget, you can also watch us live on the internet, as always, at kclv.tv. Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you next time around.